Welcome back to 30 Takes in 30 Days, the series going from the worst to the best of the upcoming NBA season. This is day 4, and we're all still trudging through the junk realm talking about the Washington Wizards, where under the leadership of Kuzma Harris, or Samala Harris, or worst case, JV Vance, we are not going back to the playoffs for the foreseeable future. Quick notice, if you don't want to watch these videos in vertical format, a horizontal version is also available. Anyway, things can't really get worse in Washington, but they're not getting better this season or anytime soon. And I'm ashamed to admit that even I, a self-confessed league pass sicko, have struggled to watch the Washington Wizards very often in the last few years. In their first year after dumping Bradley Beal on the Suns, a great move, the Wizards came second last in the East with a record of 15-67 under the leadership of tank commanders Kuzma and Poole. One win better than the Pistons, and their season can kind of be summarized in this one Jordan Poole play. Whoa, look, they're up against the Suns in the third quarter. Poole bricks the 3 over Durant for a no call. Then they get the steal and Jordan slips over in his own sweat patch from flopping trying to get the call. It was moments of potential upside in a sea of overwhelming disappointment. Defensively, they were just completely awful last season. Teams scored an average of 123 points per game against the Wizards. They gave up 16.4 second chance points a game, and they tied with Indiana for the most points allowed in the paint at 58.4, and again for highest opponent field goal percentage at 49.6%. They also conceded more than 140 points 10 times in the season, and 147 twice. Those are really impressive tanking numbers, especially in a rookie season, and the Wiz will undoubtedly be looking to bump them up. That awful defense was helped by the fact that the Wizards spent most of the season without any recognizable defensive talent outside Bilal Coulibaly, and especially following the Daniel Gafford trade. The rest of the team literally did not try to stop anyone. If you would like to get past a Wizards defender, all you had to do was advance towards the rim. They'd just get out of the way. And these guys know that most of them aren't going to be there by the time that the team is any good again, so the regular season until the trade deadline serves as an audition period for opposing teams to give up the draft equity that the Wizards so desire, especially in a year when they have no first-round pick. Once the deadline passes, what motivation is there to put yourself in front of a charging Giannis, or take an elbow to the gut from Luka, or be thrown to the ground by Sabonis? Leave that to the playoff teams, baby. Create a runway, then get on your own runway, and forget it all when you're sitting front row at Paris Fashion Week. Unlike Indiana though, the Wiz were not a historically great offense. Their offensive rating was 110.2 points per 100 possessions, which would have been a league-leading offense in 2001. Those numbers don't really matter since they're rebuilding, but I think it's worth pointing out how committed Washington became to their rebuild last season. Year 1 was a complete teardown job and a success. In a year where Detroit got so much attention for their losing streak, Washington weren't far behind. They had their own 16-game losing streak, but they were less depressing. Because in their case, the losing was more intentional. Detroit didn't actually mean to be that bad last season, and there were still moments for the Wiz. At one point in the season, they beat the Dameless Bucks in a game where Giannis had 35, 14, and 10, and Chris had 24. They also conceded 277 points in 2 nights against Denver and OKC, which is basically the team slipping in its own sweat. So is there anything to be gained or learned from Washington's losing season? Bilal Coulibaly was a bit of a gamble on draft night, a random 19-year-old French wing from the same team as Wemby, who presented as an off-the-charts defensive talent, who started the season before he was drafted playing basically Div 3 social basketball or some shit. A kid who just played 21 minutes in the gold medal game at the Olympics, and while he only scored 6 points in that game, he was part of the French defensive effort which kind of held back the US's offense until he happened. Play the golden dagger footage, baby! I'm taking every moment I can get! Run it, run it, run it, run it! This is day 4, and I haven't even mentioned Steph once yet. I needed that. Called the God Boy a devil. Bilal's good. The defense is legit, and he uses all of his 7'2" wingspan. I like this block on Tristan Thompson, where Tristan looks back afterwards like, who was that? This one against Tim Hardaway just made me laugh. Like Tim's some kid at summer camp. Bilal's a great athlete. He can get to the rim against smaller guys. He's also insanely fast with the ball and without it. He's an absolute demon heading to the rack. His shot looks very mechanical for the minute, like he's forcing himself to remember all the steps, but I was surprised to see that he shot nearly 35% from 3 last season. I don't like to see him with the ball in his hands for more than 3 seconds, but he's not an incompetent passer. It's just not his job. He's just a classic super athlete slasher who can play insane defense and is learning to shoot. Of course, development isn't linear, but 2 years ago, barely anyone knew who Coulibaly was. Can he make another leap now? Regardless, I think the Wizards would be very happy with everything that Bilal has shown so far. He's a keeper. This is probably a good time to talk about Alex Sarr, the number 2 pick, who is also French, also very high defensive upside, but look, I don't want to be a hater, but I don't see it. I think he's better than Ricochet, maybe, but I wasn't crazy about him coming out of the NBL, and that 0 for 15 effort in Summer League is hard to shake. First of all, he just looks tiny out there. He's not any good through contact, and he's just completely unwilling to get anywhere near Donovan Clingan in this game, who's certainly got a more NBA-ready frame, but the fact that he doesn't even attempt to get a rebound here, that disturbs me. It's only seconds into the second half. Summer League is 10-minute quarters, by the way, and he's hanging his head instead of competing for the ball. That's a complete lack of ticker, and ticker can't be taught. I'm not writing him off yet, and they've still got Johnny Davis getting about in Summer League, setting the example for worst Wizards pick in recent memory. But with Jonas Valanciunas joining the side, do they play Sarr at 4? Wouldn't you rather have Sadiq Bey there? I know he's young and still has a long way to go, but is he even better than Marvin Bagley right now? I don't know. Incoming call from Anthony Bennett. A rookie for the Wiz that I actually like is Bub Carrington, who they got in a deal involving likely war criminal Denny Aptia, Malcolm Brogdon, a 2029 first rounder, and 2 seconds. All the picks go to Washington. The Malcolm Brogdon part of that trade is immediately beneficial. At best, a contending team wants Brogdon as their sixth man, and the Wizards get more assets. At worst, they get veteran mentoring. Same story with Jonas and his very tradable contract. And Bub Carrington looks good already. The man started his college career with a triple-double. He just lives for this. At Summer League, he looked a few steps above everyone else, and while the college numbers are no better than 14 points a game and 32% from deep, he was 15, 7, and 5 on 36% shooting in Summer League. And if you can sprint coast to coast and step into a 3 as a rookie, I'm interested. I'll take a bit more of that. Finally, they picked up Keyshawn George out of Miami with the number 24 pick, who averaged 7.6 points in college but shot 40% from 3 over the season. He's 6'8" with a very nice jumper, and he can hit them from deep. And with a shot like that, he's going to make himself a lot of money in the league if he can stay on the floor. Nice passer too. How did he not go higher? One of his apparent red flags is that he only dunked the ball 3 times in college, but he had 11 blocks, so he can get up. Something to watch. So 2 good rookies and a maybe, that's enough. Washington don't have any current first-round picks heading into the 2025 draft, so they'll all get opportunities, especially if they move the older guys on. I'll touch quickly on Kuz, who's a productive and efficient forward. He was 22, 6, and 4 last season, shooting 46% from the field and 33% from deep. That's an average good wing player. He's probably going to be in a bunch of trade rumors this season, but I see him staying in Washington. The remaining 3 years of his contract, his salary descends. He earns $23 million this year and $19 million in 2026, which makes him theoretically appealing, but none of the contenders are in the market for a wing right now, so I think he'll stay put. That leaves one last guy that I want to talk about on this roster, and he's my favorite guy. So I should warn you that I'm not a particularly reliable source for talking about Jordan Poole, and he did have a tough start to the year where his confidence was maybe a touch displaced, and then he lost it, and then it came back after he had a stint on the bench. Also, too many meme moments for Jordan. Here he is walking the dog, thinking that the game clock doesn't start when he's thinking of the shot clock instead. Here's him staring down a defender and then getting blocked into the stands. It was a varied year that came good by the end. In the last 2 months of the season, Jordan averaged 22, 7, and 3 in 21 games, which is kind of close to the 21, 5, and 4 he averaged against Denver in the 2022 playoffs, which is the best he'd ever played and a very inaccurate comparison. But don't forget that Jordan is, apart from his giant contract, all upside for the Wizards, who basically gave away nothing to trade for him. And so, as long as him and Kuzma are battling to find the worst shot of all time for 48 minutes a night doesn't hurt the development of the rookies, more power to them. If we're about to see a whole season of Jordan playing the way he finished the season instead of the way he started it, I don't mind that at all. I'm very keen to see that. I also want him back, and I am happy for the Warriors to trade anyone and anything to get him. I love you, Jordan. So, that's what you need to know if you want to watch Wizards games this season or thereabouts. And who's their coach again? What a block!